Hi everyone, it's Professor Mackey. I wanted to show you how to use one of the MLA resources that I've linked up for you that I think is quite helpful. So if you're accessing the course from the home page, this is probably the easiest way to find it, although I did hyperlink this resource in other areas as well. But from the home page, if you click on MLA documentation, what I tried to do was compile a bunch of what I thought were the most useful resources for you. Again, I don't like to make students buy textbooks because there is a lot of high quality information available for free. So the using technology videos are very helpful. So if you do have questions about formatting, check out those videos. And then I've also just given you some formatting reminders down here. The first resource here is what I want to just show you and walk you through really quickly, because I think it's really useful and I think you can also use it in your other classes as well. So when you click on that resource, it should link you to the Purdue University Online Writing Lab. That's the OWL. This is one of the best, most well-regarded writing resources online. So Purdue University really has some great stuff here. And I do want you to also know that it's not just MLA format. They have also APA and other documentation systems. So if you find yourself taking a class that uses a different documentation system, you can definitely check out the Purdue OWL and see if they also offer some advice and tips on alternate documentation styles, because I know that they do have several other ones that they feature on this website. But we're just going to talk about MLA for now because we do use MLA in all English classes. So you'll see here the page that I've linked you up to gives just the overview of what they offer. And what I would say, if you're new to MLA, you might want to read some of the background stuff, the introduction, overview, general format. What I find is most helpful for students is the works cited citations. So the in-text citations, we've spent some time with framing, and you should know how to do those. If you need to refresh, definitely check out that resource. I do want to show you a couple of other resources here. So the basic format for a works cited page, if you click on that, it's going to show you just what the basic rules are, everything, you know, double space, don't skip lines, all that stuff. And MLA was updated in 2016. They update about every 10 years or so just to reflect developments in technology and medium and whatever. So, you know, the rules that you learned maybe in high school might be different now, and then the rules you're learning now might be different in the future. Again, the main premise here, the most important thing, is that you're not plagiarizing and you're making an effort to be regular in your documentation practices. MLA is very specific with a lot of its rules. Some of the rules, to me personally as an instructor, I'm not going to go crazy over if you put a comma instead of a period in a citation. But you do want to pay attention to the general principles of why you're putting a period in this place and a comma here. Usually a period signifies a container for a source in MLA. That's how they do it now. So if we're going to take a look at, say for example, let's look at periodicals, because I think that's what you guys will be using most in your research. A periodical is a newspaper, magazine, anything that's published in a regular period would be a periodical. So basically it tells you how to cite these different types of periodicals. So you can see article in a magazine if you have a magazine. Always the author first. That's pretty much in a lot of different, in a book as well as a magazine and a newspaper, you know, your author's always coming first. And then the title is going to be in quotation marks. You put the period inside the quotation marks. The larger name of the magazine, so if it's an article in Newsweek, you italicize Newsweek, you italicize the larger container to which that article belongs. And then the day, the month, the year, comma, and then the page numbers. If you have something, your sources online, you would include the URL instead of the page numbers. So MLA is a flexible documentation system. If you don't have all of the information that it says you should have, you can omit things, or you can sub in different things depending upon your needs as a writer and researcher. So article in a newspaper, very similar. Now you can just scroll down and see which one of these applies. Article in a scholarly journal, many of you will have scholarly journals. So one thing to keep in mind with an article in a scholarly journal, if you have multiple authors, you're going to do the last name and then the first name, and then you can list the author's first name, then last name. And you can also use the abbreviation et, E-T-A-L, which means and others in Latin. So you can just list the first author and then do et al. And that should be enough. So this is a really great resource. I urge you guys to bookmark it and poke around with it, use it. You can also use Noodle Tools, which is the Bankir Library's citation generation system. So maybe you've used like easybib.com. Noodle Tools is more powerful and accurate than easybib. So I would recommend, if you do use a citation generator, the main thing, I'm not opposed to using citation generators, just make sure that you understand the general principle and underlying logical reason why you would cite a particular source this way. So like I said, I don't want you guys to spend too much time and effort worrying about the minutia of MLA. The main thing is that you're making an attempt to follow the most recent update of MLA format and you have the basics down. So with a works cited page, you have hanging indentations, everything's evenly double spaced, it's in alphabetical order. Like, those are the big things. You don't have to stress out so much about the periods and commas and all of that other stuff. And like I said, there's more than one correct way to cite a source. So again, it is important to be an ethical scholar and always make sure you frame your sources. That is really, really important. But then when it comes to the minutia about documentation, I am not, as your professor, quite as concerned with that. To me, the overarching important premise is that you understand how to avoid plagiarism, and then, you know, the mechanics of documentation are constantly changing. So I think it's more important that you understand the eternal underlying premise. If you do have questions about MLA, I encourage you to email me, take a look at these resources. I think they're really helpful, and happy writing.